Yo, what's good? Um, you guys know what time it is. Read the title. It's a Q&A. Um, I know it's been a while, so it's gonna be my first Q&A. So hopefully, it'll come out good. I hope you guys like it. Hope you guys, like the answers I give you. If I give you half-ass, I apologize. It's just things I'm just gonna know on top of my head. You know what I mean? It's 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time, June 1st, 2012, and unfortunately, it is the beginning of hurricane season. Oh God! But luckily, we haven't had a hurricane since like 2005, at least here in Florida. So at least in my side of the area, my side of Florida. Um, let's start with the first question. First question is by my boy Stevo24, 1999. What up, little man? What's poppin'? What is the first CD you ever bought and what year? First CD I bought was, or the first album or hip hop well, first. I'm assuming you're asking me hip hop album because I didn't start buying hip hop albums until like 2000. But the first hip hop album I ever bought was, believe it or not, Marshall Mathers LP in the summer of 2000. When I first, and that was the first time I ever heard of, well, not the first I heard of Eminem, man, because I've heard him from like the Slim Shady LP. My name is, but I didn't hear that. I didn't hear the Slim Shady I didn't hear the Slim Shady LP album. I heard the Marshall Mathers LP first. Then I backtracked. Then I got the Slim Shady LP. Then I copped Infinite, but I got that off eBay. For like $6 from back in like 2001. But the asshole that sold it to me, it was a CDR, and you're not supposed to do that because that's actually illegal. But the cover was like decent, I guess. But that's the first CD, Marshall Mathers LP, in the summer of 2000. Thank you for the question. That was by Stevo24, 1999. All right, next question is by Funk Kid Music 301. What up, my dude? Um, my question would be, how do you feel about West Coast hip hop? Oh, I love West Coast hip hop. I think West Coast hip hop is ill. What I like about West Coast hip hop is I'm an East Coast head. I'm from New York. I'm a New Yorker to the day I die. I'm East Coast I'm East Coast biased, but I'm not. But I try to give other regions a chance. You know what I mean? But I grew up with West Coast hip hop. But the West Coast hip hop I prefer is from the '90s. Like anything from G Funk. Bay Area. Um, you know, conscious hip hop, gangster rap, and what I like about West Coast hip hop is that, especially in California, California is they're very versatile. They have an ill variety, unlike unlike New York or the Midwest or the South. You know what I mean? But even though those regions I just mentioned, they're kind of like trying to be more variety. They're trying to have more of a variety now, unlike before. Because before it was either just conscious hip hop or just gangster rap. You know what I mean? And that's how it was in New York. But in Cali, in like places like Cali, or like Oregon or Seattle, there's a variety. And like you got cats like Rascas, Rascal, Souls of Mischief, E40, Planet Asia, uh, man, Brother Chung, Sibo, Mr. Doc, that whole Black Market family. Um, you got mad people. Like I say, E40, Cocaine, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, DJ Quick, MC8, Compton's Most Wanted, NWA, Ice Cube, MC Ren, very underrated by the way. AC Alone, cats like that. Like I like that era and the whole Project Blow movement that they had back in the mid '90s. I love that movement. LMNO. It's like Matt. You know what I'm trying to say. And then you got like other people like Cypress Hill. One of my I like Cypress Hill, but I like the early stuff, like the stuff from the '90s. I like Funk Dubious. I like I think they were called the Three Delinquents or the Delinquents. I think that's their name. It's something delinquents. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know I'll put like after the Q&A I'll know about that. Psycho Rome. Sick Jackin. Man, Sick Jackin is a beast. Um, yeah, shit like that. I try to get into like cats like Mr. Capone, Frost, Mellow Man, Ace, like the Mexican rap, but I can't really get into that. Like I don't know, it's like I guess because of the flows and like the beats that they use, like I just can't get into that. But I think like the closest I like is like maybe like Psycho Realm, you know what I mean? Sick Jackin and like Cypress Hill. Even though Cypress Hill, like B Roll's Cuban, I think Sendog is Puerto Rican and DJ Muggs is Norwegian and Italian. You know what I mean? But that's how feel about West Coast hip hop. I feel like West Coast hip hop now is alright. It's not the best. Yeah, you got cats like Kendrick Lamar or Game and people like that. Nipsey Hussle, but they don't really blow me. Like they don't really wow me like that. You know what I mean? Unlike the artists that I mentioned before. King T too. Oh my God, he deserves a lot of recognition. Ice T, you know what I mean? I know I'm forgetting a lot of people, but I'm just giving you an idea. But that was a question by Fun Kid Music 301. Thank you for that question. That's a dope question. All great questions so far. I'll get some nice sweet tea. Might have to do a part two because my answers and stuff like that. But all right, next question is by Pops1014. What up, my dude? He has two questions. His first question is, what you be listening to from this era? I guess you mean what do I listen to that's from this era? Um, I don't know if you're trying to ask what kind of music. I'm assuming you asked me what kind of music or what kind of hip hop that I listen to from this era. But I listen to everything, but it varies because I listen to rock. I listen to hip hop, jazz, R&B from 2000. Like I like neo soul. I love neo soul. They kind of fell off neo soul. You don't really hear too much. You got people here and there like Joe Scott, India Arie, Sunshine Anderson. People like that. But I mean, there's a lot more I could go on. But I love neo soul. I just kind of wish they kind of came back. They're not really as strong as they were back in the early 2000s. From like the mid 90s to the early 2000s, they're not as strong as from that time period. Hopefully they'll come back. And his second, hip hop, rock, jazz, R&B, neo soul, or R&B. I'll put neo soul in the R&B. Hip hop, of course. That's what I listen to. And his second question is, who do you think is dope in the rap game today? Man, that's a lot of people, man. I can name you all day. I like Kendrick Lamar. I like I like Rock Marciano. I like the whole Outdoorsman. That's people like Shaz O York, J Love, Mayhem Lauren, Action Bronson, people like that. I like Matthew Ragazzino. He's dope. Papoose, Fab. He's hit or miss, but he's a dope lyricist. But I just wish he raps over better beats. You know what I mean? There's a lot of people I like. Jay Electronica I like. He's hit or miss for me, but he doesn't really put out a lot of music. It seemed like ever since he signed to the Rock Nation, he hasn't really put out a lot of shit, or he hasn't put out anything at all. And that's a whole different discussion I'll have another day, because I'll take up all day. I like Tech Nine. He's dope. Um, I just I just like shit that if it's boom bap, I'm fucking with. Put it like that, like. And a lot of people from England, I like British hip hop. British hip hop. I listen to French hip hop. I listen to all that shit because hip hop for those reasons they still live that '90s feel. And you guys know me, obviously from the albums that I review, and the beats that I make. Obviously I like '90s hip hop. You know what I mean, and '80s as well. Um, so yeah, so hopefully that answers your question. The question is by Pops1014. Thank you for that question. Dope question. See how much time I got left. All right. We got time. We got time. All right. Next question is by my boy DJ Les Live Videos. What up? He has two questions. What MC do you listen to today? I know it's not that many good ones, but there are a few. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, like I said, all those artists I just mentioned, like Rock Marciano. And then his second question towards that, um, you could probably give me top five MCs today. I'm assuming you're talking about current MCs that my favorite MCs that I mostly listen to, that I like listening to. Like I said, current. I'm assuming, Rock Marciano. I like Matthew Ragazzino, um, Chazelle York, Action Bronson, Mayhem Loren. Uh, shit. There's this group called The Connection. They're from Long Island, from Hempstead, Long Island. If you like Rock Marciano, you like that boom bap type of shit, you'll definitely enjoy The Connection. It's THA Connection. I'll post on the link. I'll post on a link. You could check some of their songs. Um, there's mad people, man. Fuck. It's so many people that I listen to. It's hard to to think of everything at once. But hopefully that answers your question. But based on what I listened, what I just said, you could kind of get an idea what I'm talking about. Um, then you got a question by my dude Jason Yano 247. What up? I was just chilling with him earlier today. Had some banging ass Colombian food. Um, he has two questions as well. Um, his question is, what do you think about education back then, and to know your positive side and your negative side? That's a dope question. I like that. That's a dope question. Um, Education today is hit or miss. I feel like it's good. As far as resources, as far as information wise, it has gotten better because back then, um, you know, we have back because now we have the internet. You have your phones, your cell phones. You got cable. You got cable news, and not to say they didn't have that back in the day, but with the internet is more accessible because the internet wasn't really as accessible until like the mid 90s. You know what I mean? Believe it or not, the internet didn't come out until like the 60s, but the internet was only military use only. But it wasn't until like I would say like the early 90s is when people started using the internet. But it was like for like a select few, because computers back then were like $11,000 for like let's say like a Apple MacBook. No, not a MacBook, but like an Apple Mac computer that only hold like 2 megs, and they were like $11,000 for a piece for a Mac PC. You know what I mean? And 2 megs, and you talk about like the mid to late 80s, early 90s. Um, I kind of feel like, but I feel like the morals of education today has gotten worse because it seems like teachers today really don't give a fuck about your kids nowadays, and it shows because you always hear all the time like you got teachers doing stupid shit like either cursing out a student. Although sometimes students are to blame as well because they have some fucked up students that weren't brought up right by their fucking parents. You know what I mean? Um, the lack of respect towards teachers and students themselves. I think that's a bad thing as well. Um, the whole bullying thing too. I think that needs to stop too. That could be prevented if the fucking schools do something and the parents too. But they just want to blame fucking social media like Facebook and YouTube and the webcams and shit like that. If anything, yeah, I could see what they're saying, but I have to disagree with them because there's always been bullying all the time. The only difference is, at least with things like Facebook or YouTube, we could actually see who does the crime, and then we could catch them. And 9 times out of 10, they always get caught. You know what I mean? Just you could get through like you get like an IP sniffer. You know what I mean? Just sniff out their IP address and things like that. I feel like back then education was better just because of the fact that it was harder back then. As far as like getting information, I feel like information was harder or was harder to get. It was limited. You know what I mean? Like we didn't really have the internet like that until, like I said, like to like the mid 90s. But even though the internet was kind of limited as well, um, I mean, you had the encyclopedias, the Britannica, you had stuff like that. But I feel like the morality of schools back then was better because you had teachers that actually cared, that gave a damn about your kids. You know what I mean? You had after school programs. You had summer camps. You had programs to take. Things like that. You had programs like Dare. Like that. Watch over kids. Boys and girls club. You had shit like that back then. Nowadays it's not even about that. Like to have a program like that, you have to they charge you, and it's like I thought that's what you pay taxes for. You know what I mean? But that's not always the case. But I just feel like education right now is getting worse right now, especially with college too. Because of with the college students and with the college debt and stuff like that. I think we all everybody's in college right now. We're all in debt in some sort of way. You know what I mean? And I don't want to keep going on. I could keep going on and on about that. And the second question was, if you can do a review of from the original Scarface and the Al Pacino version, what is? Can you tell the difference from the two? I would have to do a review of the movie. I don't have the movie anymore. I used to have it on VHS. And for all my old heads, my people my age and under, or people older than people my age and a little bit younger, and people older than me, obviously, you would know when it first came out on VHS. It was a two tape. It was two tapes. It wasn't like today. You have one DVD that could hold like over 3 hours of content. Because back then it came with two tapes, and like one side had like hour and a half, and then the next tape had the other hour and a half, and you had to play with two tapes and stuff like that. But the obviously the Al Pacino version is the 1983 one. That's the most popular one. I like the movie. I kind of feel like that movie's a little bit overrated, in my opinion. But I'll get to that another day. And the original version is based on Al Capone because the original Scarface is Al Capone, and they made a movie out of that. You know what I mean? And hopefully that answers your question. That question is by Jason Yano 24/7. Next question is by my dude Jake Gotti. Who are your top MCs? Top five MCs. If you don't have a top five, what do you listen to most? Which MCs do you listen to the most? Like I said before, like I said, a lot of stuff I listen to is like more like from the New York side. But then I listen to like I said, Mayhem Loren. The whole Outdoorsman, the Low Lives. Rock Marciano, things of that nature. I listen to a lot of boom bap hip hop. Doesn't matter what year, what region, as long as it's hot, I'm fucking with it. You know what I mean? But the people I'm listening to most now is like people like Rock Marciano, like I said, Matthew Ragazzino, the whole Low Lives, people like that. That was a question by Jake Gotti. Next question is by my dude, Mr. Jokes 7. He has two questions. Before I check, let me check how much time I have left.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do a part 2 of this. Yeah. Which MC got you into hip hop, and when did you start collecting? Dope question. I like that. For the MC part, that varies because like the year I got into hip hop was back in 1992. My cousin Chrissy that used to live with us back in the day, who was my cousin from my father's side, God rest his soul. She used to watch a lot of MTV and BET, and back then they used to have shows like Yo MTV Raps. They had like the Video Music Box with Ralph McDaniels, the Box, and Rap City when Rap City was actually ill to watch. Um, you know, to say actual MC that actually got me into it varies because it varies from like West Coast hip hop, like I said before, Southern hip hop, but not too much Southern. It was mostly either East Coast hip hop or West Coast hip hop, and that's what was popping back then. But I would say maybe like Tribe Called Quest is what really got me interested. Gangstar, Wu Tang, people like King Just. Even though King Just didn't come out until like late '93, early '94. Things of that nature. People like that, and then just watching UMTV raps. Watching people like TLC and like a lot of R&B. Immature. Boy groups like Jodeci. Shit like that. Intro, H Town. Just watching a lot of R&B and shit like that. And the year that I started collecting was the year 2000. Like I said, the first album I ever bought, hip hop wise, was 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 Marshall Mathers LP by Eminem. And but before hip hop, I used to listen to a lot of '80s music. A lot of new wave and shit like that. And I think the first album I ever bought was with my own money was, I want to say it was like a Huey Lewis and the News album. I forgot which one. I think it was like the Greatest Hits or a Queen album. I forgot, like the Best of Queen or the Best of Huey Lewis. All right, that's a dope question. And also, if you got time, I'm trying to get into hip hop gangster hood movies. Do you know any good ones that I can check out? I already know like the bases like Boys in the Hood, Get Rich or Die Trying, 8 Mile, Training Day. Yeah, I could hook you up with that. Yeah, you got a movie called Strapped that was released back in 1993 with Federal Star. You got Into Deep with L. Cool J and Omar Epps. Juice. You got Clockers, Mekhi Phifer's first movie that came out in '95. That movie Strapped, that might be a little hard to find, but if you go to like your mom and pop store or like you order it, they should be able to get a few because it's not hard, it's not rare, it's not like out of print, but it's just a little hard to find. And you should get it for dumb cheap because I seen it for like $6.99. I forgot where, but I saw it there, so and I need to get that movie myself. Um, there's a movie you should check out called The Education of Sonny Carson. Very good movie right there. That came out back in the '70s. You check out a movie called The Warriors that came out in 1979. Damn, I mean, I could go on and on and on. I don't want to keep going on to the question. I'll post like when I finish, like I'll hit you in the inbox and I'll give you some information. Some more lists of the movies that you should check out. Straight Outta Brooklyn is a good one as well. The Wire, for all 5 seasons, that's one to get into. Yeah, this Set It Off. New Jersey Drive as well. That's a very good, very underrated in my opinion. You like mid '90s hip hop, you will like New Jersey Drive. That's all I gotta say. Belly with DMX and Nas. What else? There's Matt. Oh, by the way, I bought this movie too, Blood Brothers. I bought this at FYE at the clearance section for $3.98. This looked like a gangster movie. I didn't see it yet, but I will see it. Let me know if you guys seen it. Let me know if it's good or not. I'm gonna watch it tonight. I'll let you guys know what I think about the movie. But hopefully that helped you. And that question was by Mr. Joke 7. Alright. I'm gonna cut it short right there. And stay tuned for part 2. Peace.